I'm Devorah Wallen, and I'd like to share my tea for two, my Torah thought, for 2 minutes more or less. This week we begin the fourth book of the 5 books of the Torah, Numbers, or Bamidbar, which is also the name of our parsha. Bamidbar is always read before Shavuos, which begins this Sunday evening. Although Bamidbar is usually translated as Numbers, referring to the census that is enumerated throughout the parsha until the end, Bamidbar literally means in the desert or in the wilderness, not numbers. We are finishing up Sfiras HaOmer, which we have mentioned in previous installments. This is the countdown or counting up anticipation and emotional improvement, readying ourselves for the holiday of Shavuos when we recall the receiving of the Torah. Also this week, we celebrated Rosh Chodesh, the new month of Sivan, the third month from Nisan in the Jewish calendar. In the Talmud, Rabbi Yosef HaGalili says, "Blessed is the merciful one who gave the threefold Torah to a threefold nation by means of the third born on the third day of the third month." We've seen the prominence of the number 3 many times in the Torah, but here Rabbi Yosef HaGalili is referring to the threefold Torah comprised of the 5 books of the Torah, the prophets, and the writings. The threefold Jewish nation referring to Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim, priests, Levites, and Israelites. The third born is Moshe, who had older siblings, Aharon and Miriam. On the third day, regarding the giving of the Torah, it says, "And be prepared for the third day, for the third day God will descend onto Mount Sinai before the eyes of the whole nation." How can we juxtapose all of these concepts? The importance of the threes, the idea that we receive the Torah in this month, that the Torah was given Bamidbar in a desert, that the people are being counted in great detail in our parsha and almost the whole way through it. Along with all of this is the idea that the giving of the Torah was in a desert on a modestly sized mountain, Mount Sinai. I would like to propose that Bamidbar in the desert refers to God's unique and private relationship with his lonely people. Even when things are dry and parched and we are weary, feeling alone, deserted in the world, we know that God is always present. Considering the above, I would like to hypothesize and summarize the following. We know that the confluence of these themes this week means they are somehow related. The Baal Shem Tov says we need to take a lesson from everything we see and experience. We have seen many times throughout the Torah that counting means endearment. God's counting his people in this parsha is a showering of loving attention, just as the shepherd counts his flock or the king revels while in his counting house counting his gems and coins. Similarly, Hashem lengthens the portion of the census in our parsha, attending to each tribe, each family, counting them one by one. So why do Bamidbar and Shavuos coincide this month? Threes always balance out to extremes. Remember the 3 bears? Hot, cold, just right. Also it says that before the Torah was given, the spiritual remained aloof and the material remained mundane. Now, living in the post-first Shavuos times, we can bring spirituality and godliness into the world down here. Correspondingly, we can elevate even the most mundane thing and make it into a holy object. For instance, animal hide is used for tefillin, Torah scrolls, mezuzahs, megillas, and more. Some of the most holy objects used in our religion. Prior to Mount Sinai, there was no such thing as a holy object. The words material objects themselves appeared to be contradictory. You may recall, back in Exodus it says, "The people of Israel encamped by the mountain." Rashi reveals a beautifully poignant secret found in a grammatical inconsistency regarding this verse. As we know, there are no mistakes in the Torah. Something can be learned from any apparent anomaly. The singular verb vayichan, meaning it encamped, is used instead of vayachanu, they encamped. Rashi explains this irregularity, stating that we were ki'ish echad belev echad, like one person with one heart, especially in these perilous times for the Holy Land, the people of Israel, and the world at large. Shavuos should be celebrated in the most joyous and ideal way, just as we were at the first giving of the Torah. May we receive the Torah next week like one person with one heart.